Cowboys Nation, what's up? It's Victor, and man, I gotta be honest with you. Today's update has me feeling two completely different ways at the same time. On one side, I'm genuinely excited. Minicamp just wrapped, and the depth chart is already shifting in some interesting directions. There's a rookie tackle who's suddenly working his way up the offensive line, while another guy who was supposed to be the favorite for that same job just got bumped to a different spot. Meanwhile, one of our top cornerbacks is still working his way back from injury, and a few names you might not expect are stepping up big time in that secondary. That's the kind of camp battle stuff that gets me fired up for July. But then on the other side, there's a story that's got me a little nervous. There's a real prediction out there that the Cowboys could end up trading one of our biggest offensive weapons, a guy who just had a monster season, almost 1,500 yards and 9 touchdowns, all because of how things are playing out with his contract situation. So you've got a team building something new on one hand and a team possibly letting go of one of its biggest pieces on the other. That's why this moment matters right now heading into training camp. Before we dig into who these players actually are, do me a favor, smash that like button and hit subscribe. We are so close to 17,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps us get there. Let's get into it. All right, Cowboys Nation, let's get into it. Minicamp's over, and honestly, there's a lot to unpack here, because while most of the vibes coming out of Frisco were positive, there were a couple storylines that caught my attention for all the right and wrong reasons. Let's start with the offensive line, because this one's interesting. Remember when Schottenheimer said the left tackle spot was wide open, that Tyler Guyton and Nate Thomas were going to battle it out for that job? Well, by the time minicamp wrapped, that competition looked a lot different than expected. Thomas wasn't working behind Guyton anymore. He got moved over to the right side, backing up Terrence Steele. And the guy who took his spot behind Guyton? Rookie Drew Shelton, the 4th-round pick out of Penn State. That's a big shift in just a few weeks, and I'll be honest, it's a little concerning if you were hoping Thomas would push for that starting job. Now it looks like he might be fighting just to be the swing tackle. Meanwhile, Shelton's stock is rising fast, and as a fan, that's the kind of rookie story that gets you excited about training camp. Now, over on defense, we've got to talk about Deron Bland. This guy was an absolute superstar back in 2023. 14 interceptions, 5 defensive touchdowns over his first 2 seasons, an undeniable difference maker. But since then, foot injuries have just wrecked his momentum, and he spent this entire minicamp working with the rehab group instead of on the field. That's tough to watch because we know what he's capable of when he's healthy. The silver lining is that his absence opened the door for some other guys to step up. Kobe Durant, Siobhan Revel Jr., and especially Kalen Carson all turned heads under new defensive coordinator Christian Parker. Carson in particular had a rough 2025, so seeing him bounce back with more confidence is honestly one of the better stories of the offseason. But here's the real concern. Bland's got a potential out in his contract after this season, so this isn't just about minicamp reps anymore. He needs to prove he can stay healthy, and soon. And it wasn't just the defensive backs getting buzz. Ryan Flournoy took advantage of George Pickens missing voluntary OTAs and looked like a legit future WR2. Jaden Blue came back with a completely different mindset after a quiet rookie year, flashing that breakaway speed we all know he has. PJ Locke played multiple spots in the secondary and looked sharp filling in for Malik Hooker. And then there's Caleb Downs. Man, the expectations on this kid are massive, but from what we're hearing, he's already picking up Parker's playbook and stepping into a leadership role early. If that trajectory holds, we could be looking at a defensive cornerstone for years. So overall, a lot of promising signs, a couple of question marks, and that's pretty normal for this point in the offseason. But here's the thing. While all this depth chart movement was happening, there's a completely different conversation going on about one of our biggest offensive weapons. And it's not about reps or roster spots. It's about whether he's even going to be wearing a Cowboys uniform when the season starts. Stick around, because what's being said about him right now might be the story that defines our entire offseason. All right, Cowboys Nation, Victor here again. And before we get into this next one, let's get that subscribe button taken care of real quick. We're chasing 17,000 subscribers, and if you've been riding with this channel, now's the time to hit that subscribe and drop a like. It genuinely helps. Okay, let's talk about this. So this next story is the one that's been sitting with me all day because it touches on a guy who became one of the most exciting pieces of our offense last season. I'm talking about George Pickens. Here's what's going on. ESPN's Mel Kiper actually gave the Cowboys an A grade for this year's draft class, and a big reason for that is because Dallas finally went out and addressed the defense, bringing in guys like Caleb Downs and Malachi Lawrence in the first round. On paper, that's a great offseason. But while all that defensive talk is happening, there's a much tougher conversation brewing on the other side of the ball. Pickens is set to play this season under the franchise tag, and according to CBS Sports' Brian Dardo, that's not necessarily a good thing. His take is basically this: Pickens has a track record of getting frustrated and reacting in ways that hurt the team when things don't go his way, and playing out a contract year under a tag without long-term security could set up exactly that kind of situation again. Dardo's prediction is that the more realistic outcome isn't Pickens playing out the tag in Dallas, it's the Cowboys trading him before the season even starts. And look, I gotta be honest with you, that stings to even say out loud. We're talking about a guy who just had 93 catches, almost 1,500 yards, and 9 touchdowns. That's an all-pro caliber season. The talent has never been the issue with Pickens. It's everything around the talent. And the fact that Dallas hasn't been willing to even discuss a long-term deal with him right now, that's not a great sign. If anything, it tells other teams around the league that Pickens might actually be available, and that alone increases the odds we start hearing real trade buzz before training camp even kicks off. As a fan, I'm torn here. Part of me wants Dallas to lock him up because when he's focused, he's one of the best receivers in this league. But another part of me understands the front office's hesitation. You can't build sustainably around a guy if you're constantly worried about how he's going to react to adversity. So this one's going to be worth watching closely over the next few weeks. Now here's where it gets interesting when you put both of today's stories side by side. On one hand, you've got real progress happening internally. Drew Shelton stepping up a tackle, Kalen Carson and that secondary finding their footing, Caleb Downs already looking like a leader. That's a team that's building something for the future. But then you've got this Pickens situation hanging over everything, a reminder that even with internal growth, this front office still has some serious, possibly painful decisions to make. So is this a good moment for the Cowboys or a worrying one? Honestly, it's a bit of both. There's real promise on this roster, but there's also unfinished business that could shake things up before we even get to Oxnard. My take as a fan, I want this front office to be decisive. Either commit to Pickens long term or make the trade and move forward with a plan. What we can't afford is more drama hanging over training camp. That's the update for today, Cowboys Nation. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like the video and subscribe. We're trying to hit that 17,000 mark, and every single one of you matters in getting us there. Let's keep pushing toward training camp together. How Cowboys Nation.